to a meeting of the Board of Education of Somerset Hills. Please be advised that this and all meetings of the Board are open to the public and media consistent with the Open Public Meetings Act, and that advance notice required therein has been provided. This is a meeting of the Board of Education of Somerset Hills at which formal action may be taken. The public will have an opportunity to be heard as shown on the agenda. Roll call, please.
Mr. Baker? Here. Ms. Ballard? Here. Ms. Cooper? Here. Mrs. DeGrandpré? Ms. Gills? Mr. Joyce? Ms. Nathans? Mrs. Santoro? Mrs. Rye?
Here.
And Mrs. Prenda?
Here. Thank you. Okay, the Open Public Meetings Act authorizes a public body to exclude the public from that portion of a meeting at which specified topics are to be discussed under the circumstances where the public consideration of such topics will clearly endanger the public, or where the personal privacy or guaranteed rights of individuals whose activities or affairs are to be discussed would be clearly in danger of unwarranted invasion, and the matters about to be presented for discussion clearly meet the circumstances test of such act. The Board of Education of Somerset Hills now adjourns its public session to reconvene in executive session for the purpose of discussing the following: personnel, student matters, contracts, negotiations, and litigation. Can I have a motion to go into executive? Mr. Brown, everybody to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. And I am now going to hand it over to Dr. Burchell for the report of the superintendent.
Thank you, Mrs. Frenda. I'm going to cede the beginning of the superintendent's report to Claire Taylor. Claire is a rising senior at Berners High School, and she's here to update the board regarding some activities around the Green Team. And Claire has a sincere interest in the environment, and she seeks to continue her education in college after her senior year here, studying something in the environmental sciences. So Claire, come on up. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Claire Taylor, and I'm a rising senior and president of the Green Team at BHS. I'm also the student liaison for Burnersville Borough's Environmental Commission and Green Team. Over the last year, I worked with faculty and students to revive the Green Team here. We launched the Save Energy BHS initiative, which is when we posted physical reminders near every light panel in every room at BHS as a reminder for teachers and students to turn off the lights. We also revived the rain garden located in the annex courtyard through donations from the community and work from students. Around that time, we had a week-long cleanup for the glass hallway garden, which all students were invited to help beautify and revive the gardens. Last May, about 20 students took a trip to the Autobahn, located on Hardscrabble Road, to weed invasive plants and plant many native plants in their garden. That afternoon of service gave students a new opportunity, new perspective to look at how they can help the local environment. But today, I'm here to share with you our biggest effort to date. So back in November, we joined Next Trex, a nationwide plastic film recycling challenge started by Trex Corporation, an eco-friendly decking company. The Next Trex program challenges any school in the nation to recycle plastic film such as Ziploc bags, produce bags, newspaper bags, stuff like that. But the challenge is to collect and recycle at least 1,000 pounds of plastic. But in turn, the school, if they win, receives funds for more environmental projects and a beautiful bench for the school grounds made entirely out of recycled plastic. 1,000 pounds sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. But we have engaged with 5 local businesses such as Starbucks, Bookworm, and Bee Boutique to help us with this challenge. We also established 3 drop-off hubs in the town of Burnsville, near the Burnsville Library, police station, and community in crisis, for residents to drop off plastic. So far, we have collected about over 400 pounds of plastic, but now with the summer, we've collected way more. We have to meet this goal by October 31st, and we would like to get the whole town and district involved. One easy idea would be to add notifications to SHSD website and Friday folders about info of how residents, students, staff can recycle and where they can collect and put this plastic for us. And BMS is also planning on joining this challenge in November. This challenge in the recycling programs is nationwide. If we reach this goal, it would be put for our school, and it just helps recycle and leave plastic out of landfills. And we're not just doing recycling efforts this year. We're kind of shifting away from that. And this school year, we are looking to have BHS become River Friendly certified through Raritan Headwaters and Bronze certified through Sustainable New Jersey. We're also working to plant more native gardens on campus and take more environmental field trips. That is all I have for you now, but thank you for this time to listen to me, and I can't wait to work with you to make BHS more sustainable. Thank you.
Claire, I'd like to thank you for your thoughts tonight and sharing that information. And Mrs. DeMarco, I think we have a group to engage with here, because I'm really, even unbeknownst to our Facilities and Operations Committee, this is some info that we're going to bring to them in September. We've been working with a third party to examine all of our utility bills in order to assess how eco-friendly each of the 4 schools are and how eco-friendly the Board of Education offices are. And the long and short of it is, we're not as eco-friendly as we need to be. And we have, in my estimation, a long way to go. But we are going to recommend in the near future to have a third party come in and do some further analysis on some things that they may recommend that will work in concert with some of the initiatives that you're already talking about. So this is a great opportunity for us at the Board of Education level to partner with you, Claire, and with the Green Team here at the high school. So now that I know that this is your passion, you're in trouble, because we're going to try to solicit you and the Green Team, and maybe even partner with our third party once we get to that point, to learn a little more about what they do on their end. And trust me that there are a host of career opportunities for you in this space, and we're going to be able to connect you to that.
Awesome.
So thanks so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's always great to hear from our students. We have had a busy summer here, and I'm going to start off with some of our summer snapshots. We have had a great time here this summer getting ready for the school year. We have our new webmaster, Connor, who's on the slide here, and some of our team from our business office who have recently joined us, and some of our long-standing employees that are busy all summer long. We've also been hosting Professional Development Institute courses throughout the school year as well, and so things have been moving, and things are really, we're prepared for early September. We have a photo up here of a revived cheerleading team, which has started their preseason work today. We have our teachers that are already either teaching professional development courses, or teaching in our extended school year program, or just getting the classrooms ready. And we are busy and active. Athletics is now open this week. We have our good friend Ricky and Chris Griffith, who in a lighter moment are have Kermit the Frog, and I believe that is Ratatouille. So Chris Griffith is Chris Griffith is the man behind the Genesis transition. And so he has been very, very busy this summer and continues to be busy as we roll that transition forward. Our student services has been busy as well. Our bottom right here on that slide is Pari, our new registrar, and she has acclimated quite nicely to the school district as well. So some fun activities. Just kind of me was having fun going around the district, taking some candid photos. Keith Polhofer, it's old news, but was recently in the press. He was appointed at our last board meeting to serve at Bedwell as the acting principal, and Jasmine Akayuola is his assistant, and she started yesterday. And so they are actively working together as they have been for most of the summer. On tonight's agenda is the appointment of Mr. Michael Richter to serve as an interim assistant principal at the middle school. He comes to us from the Clifton Public School District. He was there since 2012. He taught at the middle school level and was an administrative intern there. He was a language arts teacher and did foster some great connections to kids and some great connections to the families there as well. So he has been with us since August 1st. Some news from a recent graduate from Berners High School, Finn Spitaleri, was named to the United Soccer High School Scholar All-America team. He was the only soccer player and the only athlete in the history of Berners High School to be named to that. And it's a really big deal. He played on our soccer team. He also played on our ice hockey team. He also played on our tennis team and our golf team. He is majoring in economics at Davidson University. And knowing Finn as briefly as I have, is he's very humble and a very hard worker. And one of his favorite quotes is that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And he credits his family for the success that he's earned. So it's great to see Finn receive that honor, and it's great to hear about what he wants to do in the future. Congratulations, Finn. This week, today and yesterday, we held an administrative retreat, 2 days. We brought in a company called Capturing Kids' Hearts, and they conducted what's called a leadership blueprint training. So what we ended up doing was each member of our leadership team, which comprises school-based administrators and also district-level administrators, and even folks from our operations team, we all asked between 5 and 7 people for some feedback on a variety of leadership practices. So folks were asked to choose words that describe us in about 13 different areas. And we ended up receiving some feedback from people whom we report to, from people whom we work with, and from people whom we supervise. And they analyzed our leadership practices in urgency and intensity, the need to nurture, criticality, energy and expressiveness, self-confidence, being self-critical, the need for encouragement, dominance, deference, self-control, aggressiveness, the need for order, and the need for change. And the feedback sessions over the past 2 days were very productive, where every leader in the district was able to gain a better understanding of their own leadership and how their own behaviors impact not only their leadership, but the outcomes of their departments or their schools or the areas that they oversee. It was very impactful work, it was very productive work, and it was great to be able to kind of hit the pause button from a leadership perspective and just focus, on ourselves and on our work on behalf of the students and the board and parents and teachers here and staff members in this district. So it was very impactful. I myself have gone through this as well, and as I've shared with you prior, It's certainly a good opportunity for anybody to be able to do at least once in their career, to get feedback like that, to be able to understand what your areas of strength are, and to also understand, you know, what areas that you could, you know, make some small changes to, in hopes of having some significant gains on the back end. So it was a great retreat, very refreshing, and certainly something that we're taking further steps on. So that's important. We have a group photo here. Lots of fun. Hot off the griddle, we are moving forward with our free, our breakfast program, school breakfast option for all the students in the district, and we will have a daily grab-and-go breakfast in all of our 3 schools. We partner very closely with Mascios, which is our food services vendor, and we're looking forward to offering this for the coming school year to the students in our charge. We're back on the road. We have 26 transportation routes. We've increased our hazardous routes this year inside of this budget, which was one of my underlying goals. 21 buses, 17 drivers, 5 bus aides, 3 schools, and we have 1 primary goal every single day, and that's the safe arrival of our students at school and the safe arrival for them at home. From a facilities update, you may have noticed that the track is nearing completion. We ended up removing the old rubber track. We then milled the surface all the way down, conducted some site work prior to repaving the original track surface. That has to sit for about 30 days so that track surface can cure, so the oil can come out of it in order to apply the rubber surface in the not too distant future. The rubber surface then cures for about a week or so, and then we're able to stripe it with the appropriate lines and then move forward. So we've hit a bit of a hiccup, a minor one. We're just kind of waiting in line for the company that goes around and applies the rubber surface. They are expecting to apply the week of September 2nd, whereupon, you know, it'll cure and then lime, etc. So right now we're about a week or 2 behind schedule where we anticipated to be, but some weather delays from last week kind of stopped the flow of work when it comes to applying that rubber surface, but we're getting very close. Our maintenance team, our custodial team have been busy cleaning classrooms, maintaining our HVAC systems, and doing a host of other preventative work on our heating and cooling systems. We've had fire department checks and fire alarm checks, and we're focused on updating all the technology around those systems as well. Also in the area of facilities, the lower fields at Bernards High School, which hosts the softball team, field hockey, baseball, we have been in the process of conducting some work through our engineers. We appointed T&M in the spring. They conducted some soil testing just so there's a deep and broad understanding of what is under the grass, which then informs like what our next level of work is. In short, there are a variety of existing soils underneath the grass, and there is clay within the first 6 feet of the grass, which is impeding drainage in a significant way. So we do have some remediation plans that we've presented to the Facilities and Operations Committee. We are close to the point where we can make a recommendation to the board regarding exactly how we're going to go out to bid and how we're going to remediate the work, remediate those fields. In short, and I know that Ms. Santoro will update you in her report, we are looking to dig trenches from across the length of the field. So if you can imagine from like the third base line from the baseball field all the way to the building, every 10 feet. We will then in all likelihood recommend the installation of an underground drainage system that will funnel the water, almost in a French drain type of scenario, funnel the water to a catch basin and then get moved into a local stream. The one lingering question we have is how wide the trenches are going to be dug. We have a traditional recommendation, and we also have a recommendation that's called a slit cut trench, which is a much more narrow trench, where it does the same amount of work, but just you're moving less earth and you're creating less mess, and you are ultimately doing the work quicker. So we're just waiting on a final proposal regarding the slit trenching prior to making a recommendation to the Facilities and Operations Committee. We do meet on September 11th, and we do have some cautious optimism that this work can be put out to bid after we meet with the committee and be conducted in advance of the spring season. So some of the desires that we have, A, is to install an underground drainage system, and B, is to replace the pre-existing grass with sod. In order to do that, we need to conduct that work prior to the ground freezing, which typically is somewhere mid-January to mid-February. Let's hope that we don't have a cold winter. Hope isn't a strategy, but that's laid plans, and I feel like everything that I've been apprised of from our engineers, that we can meet that in advance of the spring season. So more to come, on that specific item, and we do expect some more information on our next committee meeting, which is right around the corner. So I'm happy about that. We proposed a goal-setting workshop for the board in late June, and we did have some goals that the board reviewed that night and reviewed in the days following that meeting. And we have two academic goals that show progress in decreasing achievement gaps by advancing academic performance through increased support in areas of instruction for academic subgroups. We will evaluate progress annually using all available assessment data. And secondary goal, to identify staff to leverage existing education by assessing interest in obtaining further certs, to expand our available dual enrollment and career and technical education course offerings. So that's a goal on the academic side. In the area of facilities, we look to prioritize planning for STEM, robotics, and our CTE curriculum, and to develop a prioritized long-range facility plan and cost estimates by November. In the area of community integration, we look to support the belief that every community member is a stakeholder and develop 2 to 3 avenues to expand community connectivity and engage with all community members to communicate district outcomes and opportunities for further engagement with those residents with and without school-aged children by next June. And in the area of culture and climate and social-emotional learning, identify and implement tools and mechanisms to establish a baseline understanding of the student and staff experience in our school district, to develop a future strategic plan to enhance workplace and school culture, climate, and social-emotional learning. So those are the 4 goals that we arrived at our workshop, and as I shared, they will be on the agenda tonight for approval. Every 3 years, school districts go through an evaluation process from the New Jersey Department of Education. It's called Quality Single Accountability Continuum. It's in statute, and we call it QSAC for short. So we will be developing a QSAC team in September. By the October meeting, we will be approving our district performance review, and then we will be hosting the New Jersey Department of Education for site visits and a final determination in the early winter of 2025. We do need a Board of Education representative on our QSAC team, and I'll speak with the board about that in the near future. Artificial Intelligence Committee, we are constructing a committee that will include some staff members from Bedminster as well. We will be meeting in the fall and developing some policy recommendations for the Policy and Personnel Committee for their consideration and for their review as well. We have received kind of a skeleton framework from our policy group, and we're going to begin our work in earnest once the staff return. And just as a recap from the last board meeting, we do have a final report for the Olcott Field Lights Focus Group. It's on the district website, and you can go to the district tab and then hit superintendent, and then Olcott Field is, the final report is in a document depository there, and it's the 7/18/24 report. The board will be meeting in committees regarding any land use matters, through their council regarding any potential development on the property. And lastly, we are transitioning from Power School to Genesis. If you're a parent in the district, you've received some information from us regarding transitioning to the district, transitioning to Genesis, getting a log on, and getting acclimated with the parent portal, and also beginning the process of acknowledging and reading and receiving particular parent forms in advance of the school year. The students will be receiving a similar process through their student email accounts tomorrow. There's a student portal that they will be able to access their own information on as well, their grades, etc. Similar to what the parents see, not quite as in depth, but they'll be able to see progress as well. So they will have that information emailed to them tomorrow with instructions on how to gain access to the portal through their district credentials. We will be hosting a parent training for any of those parents that need it next Tuesday night here at the Media Center at 6 p.m. And student schedules will be available for those students whose parents have completed all of the required recognitions and sign-offs in advance. Those schedules will be available on and after August 28th. We do have a dedicated support line at Genesis Support at shsd.org. So if there's any lingering questions, parents can always get some information there. And from what I understand, they have been communicating with that email address as recently as an hour ago. And also as recently as an hour ago, we have several hundred parents that have already completely signed off on all the forms and they're ready to go. So that's encouraging 24 hours into this process or 48 hours in. So that is my report.
Thank you, Dr. Burchell. And Mr. Gramling, would you like to recognize and retire?
Like what? Okay. Whereas Douglas Lucas has been employed from August 1996 through August 2024 as a facilities director, and whereas he exemplifies expertise, commitment, and professionalism to his duties, and now therefore be it resolved that the Somerset Hills School District and Board of Education recognize Douglas Lucas's retirement effective September 1st, 2024, and extend to him congratulations and best wishes for a happy, healthy, and enjoyable retirement.
Congratulations and good luck to Mr. Lucas. And thank you, Mr. Gramling. We are going to move into public comments for actionable agenda items. We very much welcome input from the public. Public comments are welcome at this time on any actionable agenda item. Towards the end of the meeting, there is a second public forum on any topic. Please state your name and address. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. At 3 minutes, you will be interrupted and asked to pause to allow any other members of the public who would like to speak an opportunity to do so. An individual may return to the podium to complete their statement after everyone else has had an opportunity to speak for a total of 2 times at the podium. Please understand that our public forums are not structured as question and answer sessions, but are offered as opportunities to share your thoughts with the board. In instances where the board feels there is a misunderstanding or inaccuracy, the board president or superintendent may address the comment. In accordance with New Jersey statute, the board will not discuss matters regarding specific personnel. Public comments will be limited to 30 minutes. A reminder for all parties in attendance to remain respectful and that there should be no interaction between the speaker and the audience. No members of the audience should interfere with or interrupt the speaker's comments. Thank you in advance for your input. And Mr. Marco, do you have your timer? Okay, so Mr. Marco will have her timer set for 3 minutes, and we encourage speakers to use that for reference to see how much time you have remaining. Is there anyone who would like to make a public comment on an actionable agenda item? Nope. Okay, so then can I get a motion to close public comments? Mr. Joyce and Ms. Santoro, thank you very much. Next, I would like to move into the approval of the minutes. So I'm going to need a motion to approve the public input and action and executive meeting minutes for the June 26th meeting and the special meeting minutes for the June 24th and July 22nd meeting. Can I get a motion? Ms. Cooper in a second, Ms. Nathans? And are there any discussions regarding the minutes? No? Okay, then roll call, Mr. Marco, please.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Ballard?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. DeGarmo?
Yes, but abstaining from the 24th and the 22nd.
June 24th and July 22nd.
Yes.
Ms. Gills?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Ms. Nathan?
Yes to June 26th and abstaining for the other 2 weeks.
So you're voted yes just for June 26th?
Correct.
Okay. Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Rye?
Don't hate me, I know I missed one, but I can't, I think it was the 24th. So I abstain on that.
I don't recall right now, but do you want me to check?
You can
Well,
technically
I'm
say
sorry.
yes even if you weren't in attendance.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry.
You can vote yes even
Okay.
though you were not in attendance.
Then fine, good, yes.
And Mrs. Frenda?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you so much. And Mr. Baker, we'll move on to the Finance Committee report, please.
Thank you. The Finance Committee met last Wednesday for about an hour. Everybody was in attendance. And Mrs. Santoro substituted for Mrs. Nathans, along with Dr. Brochel and Mrs. DeMarco. We talked about 8 separate items. So first item we talked about is a personnel item, and I'll leave that. So we talked about the retirement of Mr. Lucas and the change in title for the new job. So I'll leave that to the Personnel Committee to talk about that. That's personnel number 4. We talked about the drainage system that Dr. Brochel just outlined. I'm going to talk about the finances. I'll leave the engineering to Mrs. Santoro with some help if she needs it. The main impact is we budgeted money for the improvement, so looks like the improvement from what I've read could be between $300,000 to $500,000. And what Dr. Brochel mentioned in his report, it's important that we get this approved by the fall if we're going to do it, so we can get it done by January. And from everything I've read, it seems to be a very workable project, and I certainly agree with the approach. So we'll have more on that, and we'll have more next month too, after we get some more feedback on the smaller drainage. The next item we talked about was the audit, which is going to start next month on the 16th. So Mrs. DeMarco's office will be heavily involved in our audit. This is the financial audit of the school year that just closed. And then we'll get a very thick booklet, and they will come and give us a quick overview, probably using December and January, so we'll get that. Also, we talked about the change orders for the track. That's item number 28 on the finance. It is we're going to spend an extra $10,000 to resurface the long jump And the triple jump tracks, which were not done with what we've done so far, so that's $10,000. That's not as critical to get done on time, but I'm sure it's going to be done at the same time as a new rubber surface. We're also going to put, if you've ever been on a track and walking on the track around the back of the track toward the fence, it's not grass, it's wood and debris and tree limbs, it's a mess. So athletes and spectators can't walk around the track in all directions. So we're going to clean that up and pave it to be a sidewalk just like the rest of the track. So that's going to cost another $26,000. In the change order, now we had $50,000 in as a contingency, so we've still got $13,000 less. So it's not costing the board any more money. The next item is, and it's on the agenda, items 25, 26, and 27. We've developed a sidebar agreement with Shea for 3 new stipends for coaches. One is the second assistant volleyball coach at the high school. The next one is a head coach at the middle school for wrestling, and an assistant coach for wrestling at the middle school. So that's on the agenda. And it's in 3 items, so we'll be voting on that. We also are voting on number 21, which is a print management system. It's not the copiers, these are the printers that are scattered around the district, and Mrs. DeMarco said we're spending between $25,000 and $30,000 on toner and the cost to change all this. And so the company that our director of technology found can do this for $10,000 a year. So that seems like a no-brainer. So we're going to approve that tonight. And agenda item 24 is approval of a donation of $4,000 from the Mountaineer Booster Club for a new wrestling mat for the middle school. It's a slightly used mat, and this is a great price and will help our wrestling program. So we really appreciate that. And the last item we talked about was transportation, and Dr. Broschel already mentioned that, and Mrs. Santoro is going to talk a little more about that, so I will close my report with that, Madam Chairman.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Mr. Baker. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve action items number 1 through 32 on the agenda. Ms. Nathans and Mr. Baker, and a second for Mr. Baker. And discussion on any of the items in finance.
I have a quick question. I'm sorry, Mr. Baker, you mentioned the Director of Technology found a cheaper way to manage the toner needs. We have been spending $25,000 to $30,000 on toner for the past few years. So we were paying $25,000 to $30,000 a year, or is that an accumulative amount over like 2-3 years? 1 year. Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody else? Nope. Okay, then roll call, please.
Ms. Ballard?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. D. Grandpre?
Yes.
Ms. Gills?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Ms. Nathans?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
And Mrs. Frenda?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Santoro, Facilities and Operations.
All right. So, the committee met on August 14th. Everybody was in attendance, and a lot of what we discussed has already been covered. So I will go through it and just touch on some of it at a high level. It's already been talked about. But I will start with the BHS lower fields, and we'll talk about that for a moment. Dr. Broschel and Mr. Baker have given you some information on that, but our engineering firm spent a lot of time out there to understand what is going on with the water retention, and they, in order to determine the permeability of the soils underlying the site, they performed 4 percolation tests. And based on these tests, it was determined that there is this 2-foot level of clay that starts approximately 4 feet below the ground and then a sand layer underneath the clay, which makes drainage very difficult and slow, which is why we've been having the issues out there. So, they came up with 5 different options, and I will just read through those so that everybody knows what the choices were, but you've heard what the recommendation was. So they talked about aeration, topsoil replacement, which would have been like the top 12 inches, deep soil aeration, the underground drain system, the underground storage system, and then earthworks, which would have been 8 feet of soil replacement, so very significant. So based on the review of administration and the recommendations from the engineering firm, we are recommending further consideration of option number 4, the underground drain system. And this system is going to allow for the collection of the stormwater, and it'll allow the flooded areas to infiltrate the trench at the edge of the field, and then the water would be moved into the river, correct? Creek. So, and in order to install the system, we're going to do, there were the 2 options. There were the wider trenches and the smaller slit option, which is what the engineering firm is recommending and what administration is recommending. So they will, as Dr. Brochel said, every 10 feet install a slit that will allow this drainage system to be installed, and the water will be moved off the field. So the committee is awaiting the final proposal for that. As Dr. Brochel said, it's forthcoming soon, hopefully by September. We did let the engineer know that we're hoping we can get that so we can get the project moving. If all goes well, as you've already heard, the committee supports moving this project forward at the end of this calendar year, getting it done, moving it into January a little bit as needed to do the sodding, and hopefully having everything ready by the spring. If because of timeline that doesn't work out, we will do it as early as possible in the spring, or Dr. Brochel will find an appropriate time to do it based on usage of the field. So that is that topic. That was the bulk of our meeting. We did talk about our district engineers, and administration is recommending that we appoint T&M as our engineering firm of record. So that is on, actually we just did that, didn't we? We just did that, yep. They did an excellent job on the Lower Field project, and the administration would definitely use them again for any projects that we needed engineering, assessment, or recommendations. And the committee fully supported that. We touched on the turf lights a little bit. Dr. Brochel has gone through the process that we used. The committee will, F&O will be meeting with our land use attorneys tomorrow just to go through any final questions we have with regards to the project. And I believe finance will be meeting with them as well. And then after we have had the opportunity as committees to meet with the attorneys, we are recommending a special meeting to be held in September, at which point the board would vote whether we would approve the administration to initiating the process of procuring and installing the turf lights. Okay. We got the BHS track update, so I would just say, we're very pleased with that project, and looking forward to seeing our lovely new track. We talked about transportation in the superintendent report. Mrs. DeGrompré is going to touch on the director of operations. Breakfast is ready to go, so we're pleased to hear that, and happy that all kids will have the opportunity to have a full stomach before the start of the day. And we did briefly touch on the use of Alcott third floor with some new employees joining us on the administrative side. We have had some of our administrative team move up to the third floor of Alcott, and we will talk about expanding that use over time. It is a beautiful building overall, and the third floor is definitely unique. And we did talk about the BHS bathrooms as they've been brought up over previous meetings. The bathrooms in the A300, B200 cafeteria, gender neutral by the annex, and nurses areas are all open every day, all day. Outside of those areas, bathrooms are available when we have the faculty coverage to monitor. So this, we need to work on making sure that we are reducing vandalism and vaping in the bathroom. So Dr. Broschel and Dr. Nigel are coming up with ways to work with the student body on those challenges, and also finding additional coverage. And they are committed to doing that and working through this challenge, and will give us an update as appropriate. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Markle, I believe you have a resolution to read in.
Right, so for F&O number 5, where we will add approve international exchange student, resolve that the Somerset Hills Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the foreign exchange student from Spain to attend Bernard's High School for the dates to be determined by the superintendent for the 24-25 school year.
Okay, thank you so much. So then at this time, I would like to ask if I can get a motion to approve action items number 1 through 5 on the agenda. Mrs. Santoro, and a second, Ms. Rye, and is there any discussion regarding F&O?
I have a question that's not directly related to those items, that kind of indirectly. A couple months ago, we talked, I don't remember what committee, thank you. We talked about sanitary products in the middle school and high school bathrooms. Are they in there now, or do we have?
I have not checked, but they should be for the start of the year.
All right, just wanted to confirm that. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Nathan?
I just want to say thank you for looking into the bathrooms and following up on that, because it has been ongoing, and Sylvia had brought it up, and I know it had been a concern of mine as well, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else? No? Okay, then can we have roll call, please?
Ms. Cooper,
Yes.
Mrs. DeGromprey,
Yes.
Ms. Gills,
Yes.
Mr. Joyce,
Yes.
Ms. Nathans,
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro,
Yes.
Mrs. Rye,
Yes, but abstain on number 5.
Mr. Baker,
Yes, abstain on number 5.
Ms. Ballard,
Yes.
and Mrs. Frenda.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, and just as now that we have approved those items, we did just approve the 2024-2025 district goals. So those will replace the 23-24 district goals that are currently printed on our agenda, and those will appear monthly. So thank you everybody for working on that. And now I'm going to open the public hearing for the nurses services plan. And if there is any board discussion related to that plan, we can have that now. Nope. Okay, are there any public comments on the nursing plan? Okay, then I would like to ask for a motion to close the public hearing and adopt the 2024 district services nursing plan. Can I get a motion? Ms. Nathans, and a second. Okay, great, thank you so much.
Who was the second?
Me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then roll call for
Yes.
number 2.
Yes, okay, so then we need roll call for the, do I need another motion or is that, so- okay, so then I
Motion
need a motion to approve the Somerset Hills School District Nursing Services Plan for 24-25. Ms. Wright? Ms. Nathans, thank you. And any discussion, any further discussion? Right, okay, then roll call.
Mrs. DeGromprey,
Yes.
Ms. Gills,
Yes.
Mr. Joyce,
Yes.
Ms. Nathans,
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro,
Yes.
Mrs. Rye,
Yes.
Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Ms. Ballard,
Yes.
Ms. Cooper,
Yes.
and Mrs. Frenda.
Yes,
Motion carries.
okay, thank you so much. Ms. Cooper, curriculum, please.
Curriculum Committee met Wednesday, August 14th for about an hour and 15 minutes.
All committee members attended and we were joined by Dr. Brochel and Dr. Butler. Dr. Butler began the meeting by presenting a series of options for the board to consider regarding summer programming in 2025. Historically, we've run programs for our multi-language learners, or MLLs. Anecdotal data suggests that these programs have enabled some struggling kindergartners considered for retention to successfully advance to first grade. In recent years, ESSER funds have enabled us to provide additional programming for non-ML students. Since ESSER funding is expiring, we need to rethink our plan for summer programming in 2025 and beyond. To this end, Dr. Butler presented several options for summer programming at each school. We have run some of these options in previous years, others she proposed to address the unmet needs of our current students. At Bedwell, she proposed a 6-week program on literacy skills for Title I students, a 6-week program for rising ML kindergartners, a 4-week program providing individualized content-based support in math for 1st through 4th graders, and a 6-week program on literacy skills for ML students not eligible for Title I funding. At BMS, Dr. Butler proposed a math lab and a lab in English and language arts, as well as a 6-week program for ML students that will include 2 weeks of math instruction, 2 weeks of science instruction, and 2 weeks of history instruction. At the high school, Dr. Butler proposed a program for newcomer ML students that will include 2 weeks of programming in world history, algebra, and geometry, a program supporting credit recovery in ELA and math, a program supporting literacy for MLLs who are not newcomers, a program for SIP students to prepare them for their future classes, a summer course on geometry for math advancement for qualified 8th through 11th graders, and a 1-week college application boot camp for rising seniors. The committee strongly supported continuing the programs with records of success and exploring funding for the proposed new programs. The committee agreed that the focus should be on programming for struggling students, but we're particularly excited by the college application boot camp for rising seniors and the summer geometry class. Historically, some students have paid to take a summer geometry course out of district to advance in math, and creating an in-district geometry course would make the ability to advance in math far more equitable for our interested 8th to 11th graders. We also discussed the need for prompt and early notification of parents of the families of students identified for these programs. You know, and it can be, sometimes I think this year was a little late. We want to make sure that they're notified a little earlier so that they can plan accordingly. Next, we discussed updates to our curriculum, which we'll be voting on tonight in item number 6. Our teachers and supervisors have been busy writing multiple curricular updates in ELA, math, and other content areas all summer. Because some teachers were unable to complete their curricular writing assignments, in the future we may need to consider strategies for facilitating completion of this work. The next items on the agenda were field trips and professional development and school business requests. No concerns were raised by the committee regarding any of these requests. Dr. Butler briefly reviewed a document on the 2024 to 2025 ESSA, ESEA grant funds the district was awarded that explains how the district is using these funds. We just approved these funds, which are listed under number 16 in the finance section of the agenda. Briefly, we're using Title I funds to support a bilingual teacher at Bedwell, Title II funds for professional development and literacy, Title III funds to support the Elevation platform and sheltered instruction training, Title IV funds for summer programming for our newcomer MLLs, and Title V funds to support a bilingual consultant at Bedwell. Next, she mentioned that we'll be voting on the professional development and mentoring plans as item 7 on our agenda today. These documents, which she shared prior to our committee meeting, detail the district's process for conducting professional development and facilitating staff mentoring. She then gave us an update on the status of state guidance on comprehensive equity plans. Because the New Jersey Department of Education has yet to provide guidance on how to update or create new comprehensive equity plans, it's giving districts the option to extend the implementation of their previous plan by providing a statement of assurance that the current plan will continue to be implemented. This statement is on the agenda in item 15 for approval tonight. Finally, Dr. Butler informed the committee of a new graduation requirement for students in the class of 2025. The state has recently passed a law mandating that students and their families submit a free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA, form as a graduation requirement. Families who do not wish to submit a FAFSA form can also waive this requirement by signing a waiver. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Cooper. At this time, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve action items number 1 through 15 on the agenda. Mr. Baker?
I'll second.
And Ms. Cooper is second. Is there any discussion regarding the curriculum?
I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Hills?
Item number 15. What is this, comprehensive equity plan? I know we're carrying it over from last year, but I can't tell you what it is.
I could speak to that, Ms. Hills.
Thank you.
The comprehensive equity plan is something that every district, it's a compliance piece that we have to say that we are following all of the policies that the state puts forth with regard to any kind of equity. There's an entire list of them that we are up to date in all our policies, so we are fine that way. The last time we did a new comprehensive equity plan, we looked at a lot of different things. We've resolved all of those issues. We have no ongoing issues. One of the biggest ones that we had several years ago when we instituted a plan was we didn't have rooms in the buildings for lactating parents who either students or teachers. So we've addressed that so that we make sure that we have a spot for anyone who needs to use those facilities. That was one of our major things in our last plan. So until the state comes out with a new template format,
Okay.
we're just kind of, it's kind of status quo for now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
I have a question. On the FAFSA, how did we do?
With regard,
With how many percent actually did?
what's new?
I-
We waived it for last year, we didn't have to do it for last year, so it's for this coming
So
year.
nobody did it?
Right.
Okay, because I read a lot of articles quoting that other schools, excuse me, did, only half of the kids did it,
And we always encourage our students to fill out the FAFSA form. It's a benefit to them and to their families. But this does give us the option that the families can waive that if they don't want to fill out the FAFSA
So
form.
when will they be notified and when will they start filling it out?
The FAFSA forms have been a little bit delayed. They were delayed last year, they're being delayed again this year. So we will have someone who will come in and speak to our students and families. We do that every year. We've also done it in previous years in Spanish as well. And we have people there who can help them fill out the forms, but it is being delayed again this year.
Okay.
Hopefully next year they'll get everything out
I mean,
quickly.
it's a hard form to
It
fill
is.
out. I don't need to tell everybody here. But you
I
also
mean,
have.
most important thing is don't forget your PIN number if you have multiple
The
children.
most important thing is the parents have done their income tax.
Yes.
Because, as a volunteer, I help a lot of lower income people, and the reason they're doing their taxes is because they forgot to do it, and they're stuck in this FAFSA hole. So hopefully the parents will understand that it's a two-step process.
Right. One of the things that's important to remember too about the FAFSA is that if your child is eligible for some kind of academic award or grant, oftentimes the school will require you to fill out the FAFSA forms. So
I'm wondering if the low numbers last year related to the struggles of FAFSA process last year. The low percentage completion. I mean, it was such a struggle.
It was a struggle, plus it wasn't mandatory, but I don't think people knew from when I read the articles, they knew they could wait out of it, so, because there's a lot of people who don't need it, or people who are not going to college, so,
Yeah.
other groups of people, so, it's a tough law for the state to mandate, graduation on that, it's very difficult for us to hit 100%. It's possible, but, we're gonna have to start now.
a student can also waive themselves if they're 18.
When they can't.
And if for some reason we can't contact a parent to fill it out, a counselor in conjunction with the student can fill it out.
That's great.
So there's a few different kind of fail-safes
Okay.
Is there a
in the
cutoff
process.
date?
There may be, I'm not sure what it is exactly.
Ms. Neethans, did you have?
Yeah, I have a question for Ms. Cooper. So for the summer course on geometry, could we coordinate coordinate that with the
Yes.
district for the kids that are?
Yes, we're doing that, we're in close contact with them if we go through with this.
Thank you.
And all of those are kind of still up in the air.
Well, I definitely understand that. It's the wish list of what we would like to have happen, which
Yes,
would be wonderful,
yes,
which
it's a
sounded,
wish list.
it all sounded wonderful.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you for putting that together.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that has anything for curriculum? No? Okay, roll call please.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Ballard?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. DeGrombre?
Yes.
Ms. Gills?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Ms. Nathans?
Yes.
And Mrs. Brenda?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thanks so much. And personnel, Mr. Grumby.
Personnel and Policy Committee met on the 13th for about an hour and 15 minutes in person, and all members were in attendance. We are voting on a number of personnel items on the agenda this evening, one of them being the new assistant principal that started at BMS. Seems to be going very well so far from what we're hearing, and we welcome him to the district. We did also talk about a change that is there for the Director of Enrichment, Academic Support, and Multilingual Learner Programs. It's there for approval this evening, but that position will continue to have oversight as well over social studies and world languages at this time. We also talked, as people have alluded to, about some changes that are on the agenda after the retirement of Mr. Lucas. So what we have chosen to recommend is the removal of the Director of Facilities and the Coordinator of Transportation position, and combining those position responsibilities into a new Director of Operations position, which would merge our transportation and our facility departments together. And despite searching internally and externally, we do thankfully have an internal candidate to recommend on the agenda this evening for that position, which is great. And we also talked to the committee about continuing to mentor for all positions for the future to ensure that we have consistency and chances for our team to continue to develop. With that, we also talked about the addition of a secretary for operations as being a new position that would also be on the agenda with a job description for approval to help to support the Director of Operations. We're hopeful that that may also be able to happen as a bus sub and other pieces and things like that, but that is there as well. There is also a Director of Technology, which is being retitled from a manager that has no financial impacts, but it is aligning with industry standards in terms of personnel. I believe that is it.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Grumby. And now I would just like to have a motion to approve action items number 1 through 22 on the agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Grumby and second, Ms. Fry. And any discussion? No? Okay, then roll call please.
No,
Okay.
sorry.
Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Ballard?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. DeGrombre?
Yes.
Ms. Gills?
Yes. Number 6, C, abstain. Thank you.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Ms. Nathans?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
And Mrs. Brenda?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. And right back to you, Mr. Grumby, for policy.
Okay, so in terms of policy, we talked about a number of discussion points and second reading and plans for the future. So we started with a discussion surrounding the facility use policy. We wanted to take a look at it and take an initial review of it, considering that the light study has been completed, and look at if there was any beginnings of language that we wanted to try and enhance with our current overall use of facilities, not just with respect to any potential for future lights. There were many recommendations that were made with ongoing discussion, with potential discussions in the future of should there be caps, should there be rental caps in terms of our facilities, should there be hours for consideration, who should we allow to use our facilities, and what sorts of things could we do to enhance any future policies in regards to how much work has gone into our initial light study, if we choose to go forward with lights at any point. So there is still a significant amount of work to be done with that policy, but an initial draft was reviewed by the committee, and we will continue to review it and make considerations in the future meetings. We also put into second reading the resident and non-resident student policy, the substance abuse regulation, the conduct of a board meeting, and they were all moved forward. There was discussion around board norms and the conduct of a board meeting by law and where certain topics would be best addressed in upcoming meetings, and that was clarified amongst the committee. There was discussion, as Dr. Brocho alluded to artificial intelligence and the committee being developed for this fall, and we received an initial skeleton that will be worked on for future meetings and future policy development. And then we also received a nice packet to read, which is Alert 223, which goes over Strauss-Esme alerts for discussion in September and looking at future policy changes related to that alert. We also had a discussion related to drone use. There was a request by an organization to film parts of graduation in using a drone, and we did not have a policy to speak to drone use on campus. So the committee is recommending that we review other districts' policies on drone use and consider putting into place a drone use policy for Somerset Hills in the future. And we then reviewed our current pending agenda items. So that was it.
Okay, thank you so much. So then at this time, I would like to ask for a motion to approve action item number 1 on the agenda. Mr. Brownbay, and a second? Ms. Nathans, and discussion regarding policy.
I have a question regarding the AI. Yeah. So Strauss-Esme did the skeletal policy, I guess. So was that their intent to have each district come up with their own?
Yeah.
So they're not going to elaborate further on their AI.
So you'll get more intel once the committee is prepared.
Mm-hmm.
They did a lot of work on it, but they also recognize that each district is likely in a different space, in a host of different areas. So they want the districts to customize it to their liking. So they did do some significant work, I would say, but they didn't, do all.
Was that available to was that part of the packet?
It wasn't. I shared it with the policy committee, just to kind of let them know like what we're going to start working on. I can certainly share it with the full board. No issues there.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, okay, great. I'll put it in the backup.
Thanks.
Okay, great. Yes, Mr. Baker.
On the drones, Dr. Brusher, did the person last year, I can't remember, were they going to use it for their personal use, or were they going to sell it?
They weren't going to sell it. It was going to be used in order to support an initiative of a local foundation that raises money to give back to the school district. So they wanted just the footage of the graduates as part of the pitch.
So I guess one of the things in the drone, whatever we come up with, would be, are they using it for personal use, nonprofit, or profit? I would think that would be something that I would want to know as a board member.
Certainly. Yeah, the proposed policy, I think, is heavy on insurance and coverage and liability, et cetera. But we can certainly examine that. And off the top of my head, I can't recall if that's in there or not. But we can certainly provide that feedback to the committee.
Thank you. Is there anybody? Right.
I want to just commend the committee for the intensive work that they put into looking at the substance abuse policy and updating it to reflect, not only things going on in our district, but also looking at what other schools in the area are doing in terms of our policies. And really always sort of looking toward less punitive and more, instructional. That's not the best way to say it, but, that just punishing a child is probably not the best thing to do, and that, we certainly don't want to disrupt children's education or want to disrupt it as little as possible when it comes to a substance abuse issue. So, thank you to the entire committee for all the work. And I know, and also the high school administration in particular has been very involved in this.
to that end, Ms. Wright, the instructional piece, the counseling and the support, and that our district has built in kind of ancillary to the policy, but that will be a hallmark of the policy moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anybody else? Yeah, Ms. Gelson.
Okay, didn't we always have a counseling component for the substance abuse consequences?
Yes, and I said that was a hallmark of.
That's what I thought,
Yeah.
okay. Now, Dr. Rochel, what's the rationale for lowering the consequences when we have vaping issues in the high school? If we have those issues, why are we lowering the consequences?
I think that the consequences in the current policy as it's constituted do get to the point where they're very, very excessive, and in the opinion of the administration, and I believe the majority of the committee, it is counterintuitive when kind of examining student achievement and student connectivity. So we wanted to have a policy that was reflective of expectations and consequences, but not extending students out of school for such significant periods of time as the current policy is mandating, or regulation, I should say.
Okay, is there anybody else for policy? Yeah, Mr.
Yeah, I want to commend the committee and administration on really interjecting the facilities usage when it comes to the lights into the policy discussions. I think overall the facilities conversations are positive, and it just shows the amount of work that you're doing with the community and listening, and how we collectively really want to inject that into the policy for the comfort of everybody. So I think that's an important piece.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else for policy? No? Okay, then roll call please.
Mrs. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Ballard?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. D. Grumfrey?
Yes.
Ms. Gills?
No.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Ms. Nathans?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
And Mrs. Frenda?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you so much. We will now move into our second public comments period for the evening. Public comments are welcome at this time on any topic. Please state your name and address. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. At 3 minutes, you will be interrupted and asked to pause to allow any other members of the public who would like to speak an opportunity to do so. An individual may return to the podium to complete their statement after everyone else has had an opportunity to speak for a total of 2 times at the podium. Please understand that our public forums are not structured as question and answer sessions, but are offered as opportunities to share your thoughts with the board. In instances where the board feels there is a misunderstanding or inaccuracy, the board president or superintendent may address the comment. In accordance with New Jersey statute, the board will not discuss matters regarding specific personnel. A reminder for all parties in attendance to remain respectful and that there should be no interaction between the speaker and the audience. No members of the audience should interfere with or interrupt the speaker's comments. Thank you in advance for your input. And again, I will just direct anybody that will be speaking to Mr. Marco's timer, and to please reference that over the course of your comments so that you know how much time you have remaining. Is there anybody who would like to make a public comment, please?
Greg DeGrand, 7 Flintlock Court in Burnsville. I just want to say thank you for the emphasis and the time and consideration being given to facility improvements right now. It certainly, I think, is appreciated by those of us who have seen fields and facilities kind of go less cared for over the last however many years. I do want to also say that it's my understanding that the school has a lease on the tennis courts, and they're in pretty rough shape too. And I don't think we're at the end of it yet. I hope those kids get a chance to play on something that's a little more representative of what we're trying to do for other facilities improvements. So thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Is there anybody else that would like to make a public comment at this time? Nope. Okay, well then can I get a motion to close public comments, please? Mr. Grandpre, and a second, Ms. Rye, thank you. Okay, we will move into supplementary matters. The views and opinions of are may be expressed by individual members of the Somerset Hills Board of Education during supplementary matters, or solely those of the individual board members, and do not reflect the views, opinions, policies, regulations, and/or positions of the Somerset Hills Board of Education and/or any other individual members of the board. Is there anybody that has anything for supplementary matters? Okay, well, I will just say that I view this meeting as the kickoff to a new school year, and I am very excited to see what that brings for us. And with that, I will need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Baker, and a second. Ms. Santoro, and an all in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.